let you know exactly what happened last year just about this time. You asked me for $100 and I didn't have but 99.
Sonny Boy Williamson is the name of two different blues singers who both happen to have been harmonica players. So the first was a guy called John Lee Williamson, who did lots of recordings between the 1930s and 1940s. The second is the one that actually we want for this video, who was a guy who probably was called Ford Miller, but has been referred to as Alex Miller and Rice Miller and Little Boy Blue, and then for a long time as Sonny Boy Williamson. And the speculation is that somebody involved started billing him as that in order to piggyback off the fame of the previous Sonny Boy Williamson. And so people who talk about them tend to designate them as Sonny Boy Williamson 1 and Sonny Boy Williamson 2. Sonny Boy Williamson 2, our guy, did become very much known under the name Sonny Boy Williamson, and I think that's the person who I've heard referred to before. The confusion about him doesn't stop there. So Wikipedia, it's so much fun reading about him on Wikipedia. He was born in, they think, possibly 1897 or 1899, or maybe 1907 or 1909, or maybe 1912, depending on who you believe and which source you're looking from. He was born in Greenwood, Mississippi, or maybe it was Glenwood, Mississippi. And again, people disagree over this. In 1941, he started to play for the King Biscuit Time Show, which is a show on radio which is sponsored by King Biscuit Flour in America. And it was the sponsor for the show who started billing him as Sonny Boy Williamson, presumably to kickstart his fame and his career. He did play at that time with some really well-known blues players, including Elmore James, Big Joe Williamson, Robert Johnson, and for a while he lived with Howling Wolf. He started making recordings in the 50s, and in the 60s there was a British blues explosion, and he toured Europe and he played with the Yardbirds and the Animals. There's a great story about him that he set a hotel room on fire in England by trying to cook a rabbit in a coffee percolator. He also famously said, fairly famously said, those British boys want to play the blues real bad, and they do. After a while, he moved back to the USA, and he went back to the King Biscuit Time radio show. He died in 1965. He was found after somebody went looking for him because he had failed to turn up for his radio show. And just to add to the confusion to him, the headstone, I don't know if it's been corrected, but certainly the initial headstone that he had the wrong date on it, which was supplied by the record company. Hi, my name's Dan. So I've heard of Sonny Boy Williamson. I hadn't previously, to looking at this list, realised that there were two people called Sonny Boy Williamson. I think the one that I'd probably heard of mainly was Sonny Boy Williamson the second, which is the guy that this album's by. This is the first time that I've heard this album, and it's an album that's a compilation of singles that had previously been released. This is how albums really started off in the 50s and maybe even a little bit before that. And this was, I think, 1959 it was released. There are also several other well-known blues musicians playing on this album. So Sonny Boy is singing and playing harmonica in what's called the harp style. I don't know how that distinguishes from the styles. But also on this album appear Muddy Waters, Jimmy Rogers and Willie Dixon, as well as several others whose names I didn't recognise. Mostly it's 12-bar blues songs. They're all credited as being written by Sonny Boy Williamson. I don't know to what extent this is absolutely strictly true, because I know that songs got mangled and redone, and there was a lot of traditional songs going around. So I might be doing them a disservice. These might all be completely original and different from anybody else's songs. The one song that I noticed wasn't a 12-bar blues is kind of more of a, it's too early for soul, but more of a kind of soul-y type song, and it's called "Wake Up Baby," and I have heard a similar song elsewhere. I can't remember who it was by, and whether it's the same song or whether it's just the same idea, which is the idea of a man coming home and saying to his wife something like, "Who's that? What's that coat doing on the coat rack where my coat normally is?" And his wife saying, "Don't be stupid, that's not a coat, that's a blanket that was given to me by my mother." And then the man's saying, "Oh, that's interesting, I've never seen a blanket with sleeves before." And several iterations of that same idea. The rest of it, there's some interesting titles. It's mostly about life and relationships, and maybe the kind of slightly seedier side of life being blues. That's all fine. It's decent enough. It didn't feel that special. It doesn't. Some blues has a real kind of, it kind of hits my backbone in a way that goes, but this didn't particularly. But it is still blues, and that's always a good thing. So I mostly liked it. What do you think? I'd love to know your opinion. Please tell me it by using the comments box. And that's it from me for now.
I come home one night, I was tired, yes I could be. I saw a mule in my stable, what my mule's supposed to be. Wake up, baby, and explain all this stuff to me. Who was mule that in my stable?